Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aldo Gandia. Let me get this graphic out of the way so you can see my ugly face. There it is. Welcome to another episode of GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. Again, my name is Aldo Gandia. Thank you, everyone in the chat room for birthday wishes. I do hit 65 today. I'll talk to Greg about what it's like to finally get some Medicare supplements and all that stuff. But I just want to begin by letting you know that last night, Dan and I did what I thought was a really good Bear Their Soul show. So if you got a couple of hours to listen to that during the week, please do so. We got some great comedy bits that got some really good comments in the chat about. And then tonight, Buffon 55, we've got an episode that I'm going to be very, very proud of when it's done, because the planning going into it and the pre-production going into it has been extensive. And so I hope you will tune into that, along with Mac and Reed at 6 p.m. Central. Bar Down Hockey, somewhere in between all of our programming for today. But let's bring in the man of the hour, Greg Gabriel. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, and hopefully I don't cough today.
Yeah, well, we're starting a little earlier. That should help you. Everyone that is saying that you need to get one of those air purifiers. Mine costs $400, and it's a really good one.
That. I'm not spending I wanted to have a clean show today, and I already start off on the first sentence of the day.
No clean shows allowed here. By the way, I hit 65. When you hit 65, did you immediately apply for Medicare, or did you?
You have to. So actually, I did it probably a month or two before or something, just to get the paperwork started.
Yeah,
I think you're required to, by law, sign up for Medicare at 65. And then now my wife I was on the Bears insurance until I turned 65, but they, at that time, it may have changed since. They may have a different carrier, but at that time, I had to come off as soon as I turned 65 and go on to Medicare, even though I wasn't working there. But it's because of my years of service in the league and how many years I worked for them that I was eligible to stay on. But my wife is still on their insurance program, and she's on until she hit 65.
Okay.
So, which is, almost 2 years, about a year and 3/4 away. And for the coverage you get, it's really cheap. It costs me like $170 a month for her to be on that insurance. And it's really, that's a thank God right there.
Look at that. Well, I'm getting all sorts of great Medicare advice in the chat room, too. I'll make sure to look at all that later. Oliver says, happy birthday, Virgo brother. Yes, I'm a Virgo virgin. I don't know what that means, but I tell you
You're
what.
a virgin?
Well, I lost my virginity when I was 16, but that's another story for another show. Greg, I want to start off by talking about the Bears-Packers rivalry. One of the greatest moments in the rivalry was when Lovie Smith was hired, and he said, our number one goal is to beat the Packers. That really galvanized the Chicago Bears fan base. Tell me what your experiences at Halas Hall and with the Chicago Bears organization has been like regarding that rivalry versus the Chicago Green Bay Packers.
It's different. And my first year here, I don't think I totally got it. I came from New York, and we didn't have a specific chief rival. Anybody in the NFC East was a rival. Philadelphia, Washington, Dallas. So I've grew up knowing about the Bears Packers rivalry, but so my first year was 2001. I don't think I got it that first year.
Okay.
The intensity of it. Now, Lovey came in 04, but let me tell you, you learn quick, though, because the atmosphere in the office, starting at the very top, and I'm talking ownership, changes completely. And back then, Ed McCaskey was in the office every day, and Michael was there a lot as the CEO. But the game meant a lot to Ed McCaskey, all the McCaskey kids, and so there was just a different aura in the building, an intensity and a tenseness. You just didn't want to fail, and when you did fail, you didn't think you were just letting yourself down; you were letting ownership down and the community down.
Yeah.
So that's it's unique. I think the players, like when I was first here and a rookie in Chicago, it took me, a year to really figure it out. I think that's probably the same with some of the players.
Mm-hmm.
But once they're a part of it, and now you get, like I said, Jerry Azuma, had a tweet today, and Jerry hadn't played for a while, and he had a tweet out, puck the fact, and,
I love it.
and Olin will put out stuff, and other guys, Jason McKee and stuff. They'll always, they'll put out little things because they know how important it is, and they've played in it.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the whole time I was here, I always went up to Green Bay for that game.
And that experience at Lambeau Field, I really encourage all Chicago Bears fans to go up to Lambeau Field and watch a game. I think it's something you should put on your bucket list. I've gone 3 times, once to see the Packers and Raiders and twice Bears and Packers. And I just love the atmosphere there. And it was treated well by fans.
Yes, fans were great. I'd take my wife. Sometimes I took my stepson. I was always in the press box. I got tickets for them. But one time I went up, and it was during the Lovey years. So, the team buses up to Green Bay for that game. Now, I don't know if they're going to do that with Flus, but they did it with Lovey, and they did it with Dick Duran and stuff. And then you fly back.
Right.
Because it's only, from Halas Hall to where they stay, and they don't stay in Green Bay. They stay in that one town just southwest of Green Bay, whatever the hell the name, Appleton, I think. They stay in Appleton, and it's a 2.5 hour bus ride, and they go up there, and then but they immediately fly back. But anyway, so we went up Sunday morning. It was myself, Bobby DePaul, Cliff Stein, and Ted Phillips, and we met at Halas Hall, left probably at 7. And as soon as we cross the state line, now I'm only 10, 11, or my house is, I'm only 10 or 11 miles from the Wisconsin border. But so it's another 12 miles south to Halas Hall, or 11 miles. But anyway, as soon as we cross into the Wisconsin border, Bobby was driving. He hadn't gone 2 miles. And the cop car with the lights were flashing,
escorting,
and they were just waiting for people from Illinois to cross that line. Because at that time, the speed limit in Wisconsin was 65. It's 70 now, and if you had Illinois plates, they'd pull you over at 66 or 67, and so it was just. Put a spoiler on the day. I don't remember if we won the game. But in fact, if you can look up one game, look up, we opened the season 2006 in Green Bay.
Okay.
And Devin, it was
26-0.
We won or lost? We won.
Bears won, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Because Devin had a return in the first game for a touchdown.
Exactly.
But so I was thinking that, Roshan Johnson switched his number yesterday from 30 to 23. And I'm thinking, well, and right away I thought of that game with Devin and we're number 23. And I thought, you know what? Maybe there's going to be a little luck to that number 23 number. And he might do something in this first game against Green Bay.
Yeah, amazing. This is the game. I got some clips of it found on YouTube. Rex Grossman at the quarterback. Look at that arm. You guys
Rex had
look at that.
That might have been one of his best games ever. That's Bernard Berrien.
Yeah, jeez, so beautiful. Gosh, it was so. This team. When you saw Rex Grossman throw a pass like that, you just had to believe he was going to be an outstanding superstar quarterback. What happened to Rex?
He shattered his ankle and lost all mobility. And he didn't just shatter his ankle, although he had 14 breaks.
Wow.
And so and I might have said this before, but I know I've said it to other people. And there's people say, oh, it was a bad pick and all that bullshit. They don't know what happened to the guy. And remember the racehorse Barbaro?
Yes.
Okay, well, Barbaro broke down on the backstretch of some race. And usually when a horse breaks their ankle in their ankle area, they euthanize the horse. But in this case, they didn't with Barbaro. He had surgery. And I remember they showed x-rays after the surgery. And he had like 14, 15, 16 screws going through that lower part of his leg and hoof and everything else. And I said, that's just like Rex's ankle looks like. After seeing it, really, that's what it looked like. And he wasn't a big guy. He was, he measured 6'1" at the combine, but I think he was up a little bit. And because they wanted to measure him at his pro day. He said, no, I'm 6'1", I'm staying there. And he's probably 6.5 feet. And he had shorter arms. Arm length on quarterbacks isn't a big deal. So he had to rely on his mobility and he had very, very quick feet. And so what he could do was slide in the pocket to find that open area, and his release was jet quick. And get the ball off. Well, when he shattered his ankle, that lateral mobility went out the window. And he was never the same quarterback.
What was his footwork good? You said he had quick feet, but was his footwork overall good?
Yeah, but he just had he was never going to run a fast 40.
Right.
But he had very quick feet and could move quick in a short area. And slide quick, lateral agility ability to change direction, come back the other way, just a pocket presence that was very, very good. But when he lost that, it was all over, and I think he lost a lot of confidence in his game.
Yeah. You talked about it taking you a year to fully realize that rivalry between the Bears and the Packers. And Jaquan Brisker has said that he's dying to play on Sunday as he's recovering from his undisclosed injury. And he said it's Bears Packer week, I can't wait, and so forth. Do you think, and I know you're not at Halas Hall, but you perhaps have a sense of this. Do you think that Matt Eberflus and this current Chicago Bears regime have done a good job of instilling into the players the importance of this game for Bears fans?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not there to listen to what he says to, but yeah, I mean, because he's going to get it from the top, as is Ryan Poles. And once, and I think George probably would be, meaning George McCaskey, would probably be very forthright and communicate the meaning of the game very well to those people. And so, but, the media picks up on the intensity of, and not just local media, national media. Right. And the intensity of the rivalry and it's the oldest rivalry in the National Football League. So I think, you get it. Your first time through, meaning the first game, you might not get it as much, but you're going to get it. And like guys with Jaquan Brisker and stuff, they didn't beat him last year.
Yeah.
And so, and you had the Aaron Rodgers asshole comment of "I own you," and I wish that some bitch was playing.
Me too.
Just so they could own his ass. But anyway, I think now, you know, they got it. They're there. They know how important it is for everybody. And on top of that, being that it's the opening game, it makes it that much more impressive. You know, last year, whoever thought they were going to beat San Francisco in the opener, and they did. I don't give a damn what the damn weather was. They won the game.
Exactly. They won it on grit and never fighting, even though, you know, through 3 quarters, it looked like the Bears didn't have a chance, but they kept fighting and they pulled out that win. And it was a momentous moment for Justin Fields when he slid into the end zone at the.
Well, they all did. They're all being 10-year-olds instead of 22-year-olds.
That was really cool. All right. The depth charts that were released yesterday for each team. Let's start with the Chicago Bears and the offense here. We've got I don't think there's any surprises here, but let's talk about the offensive line. They've got Larry Borum as the swing tackle at left and right tackle. Cody Whitehair and Lucas Patrick and Nate Davis now are expected to start in the middle. Whitehair at left guard, Patrick at center, and Nate Davis. And the rookie Darnell Wright, Matt Eberflus said in Monday's press conference, he is ready to go and has been ready to go for a little bit of time here. What are your thoughts on this offensive line? Dan Feeney, newly acquired, is the backup center, and J. Tyreek Carter is the swing left guard. Any concerns here?
Well, first of all, as we said during the preseason, I don't put a lot of stock into what they put in those depth charts.
Mm-hmm.
The real depth chart's going to play out on Sunday. And the meaning of that, like Nathan Peterman is listed as number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is he number 2? You know when we're going to find that out? About an hour before the game.
Okay.
You know, because then they got to list who is number 2 and who's number 3, because number 3 is an emergency quarterback.
Right.
And so you're going to find that out. As far as the left guard, Dan Feeney's the backup left guard, not Carter. Feeney is about, you know, most of his experience is at left guard and center.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you know, I would think that Feeney's going to go in there first before Carter. Carter's going to go in first at right guard. That's replayed in the preseason. You know, we haven't seen Patrick play all preseason. I said this be the 1,000th time that I've said it. You know, I love the way he played in 21 when he was with Green Bay. And he's playing against Green Bay, so you know he's going to want to have a big game. So, you know, it's a coming home for him. So it'll be interesting. You know, from the fans' point of view, they don't know what Patrick is. They don't know what Davis is. I'm not worried about Cody Whitehair at left guard, but I think when Tevin's back, Cody will move back to center, unless Cody's playing unbelievable left guard, and Tevin will be inserted back at the left guard position. So, but that's 4 weeks from now. Tevin's got to miss 4 weeks. As far as the rest of this, I don't know if Valus is really number 2 behind DJ. You know,
my guess, Greg, is that they're going to have a package of plays for him, which is maybe why we might see him out there.
I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure he's going to dress.
Really?
I'm guessing. I admit that.
Sure.
And because I don't see him dressing. How many receivers I got? 7, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
No, they got more than that. They got more. Jones, Taylor, Claypool.
7. You're right.
Yeah.
7.
So they're going to dress 5, maybe 6. And Trent Taylor's going to dress because he's doing the punts. So are you going to dress 2 guys that are there strictly for special teams? You follow what I'm saying on that?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and because if you dress 7 receivers, you're cutting yourself short somewhere else. Yeah. And I just can't see that right now.
Well, that would make sense. We shall see. What do you think about the running back situation? Herbert, Foreman, Rashawn Johnson, Travis Homer is listed as the fourth running back. And again, as you said, that this doesn't really matter. But I keep looking at these four running backs and thinking this is one of the strongest overall running back rooms in recent Bears memory.
Yeah, I agree with that. And how they come, I don't think the depth chart really matters as to how they're going to play. Is Foreman going to be the second guy in, or is Roschon going to be the second guy in? We'll find that out on Sunday. And I think part of it will have to do with down and distance.
Right.
Because they're going to want to utilize certain players in certain down and distance situations.
Mm-hmm. You expect Lewis to get a lot of playing time, given that the Bears might be running the ball heavily? Mercedes Lewis.
That's a good question. I think if they want to go into a lot of 12 personnel and 12 personnel using two Ys, that, he'll get extensive play time. But you can do that. I mean, when you got Komet and him in the game, you can use Komet as a move guy. But I think all three are going to play.
Yeah. It's the big question regarding this team, and it really is for the defense too, as we turn this page over to the defense, is there are going to be, at today's practice, there are going to be a bunch of guys lining up for the first time. They're going to say, oh, okay, you're playing this position. Oh, I'm playing this position, because they just haven't had the opportunity to play much together at practice. Like, for instance, DeMarcus Walker, Justin Jones, Andrew Billings, Yannick Ngakoue. Those are your four starting defensive linemen, and they probably have not seen many snaps, the four of them together in practice.
Well, yeah, you're right. In OTAs, Walker, Jones, and Billings all work together.
Okay.
But not Ngakoue, because he's only been around for 3.5 weeks. It'll be interesting. I remember, going back a month or so ago, right at the beginning of camp, I thought they might pair Justin Jones with one of the rookies and Billings with the other rookie, instead of going two vets, two rookies. But all through preseason, that's how they played it: two vets, two rookies. So it'll be interesting to see how they interchange them, because there's going to be a rotation.
Right.
I expect 8 defensive linemen to be active, and all 8 are going to play. It's what's the percentage? We'll find out. I think part of it is going to be who's got the hot hand at each particular position, of who plays the majority of snaps. But I don't think anybody's going to play more than, say, 60%.
The big thing here is, can this group of the front seven stop that Packer run game? And the chat room has been buzzing about that. Stop the run, stop the run. It almost sounds like good old Doug Buffone talking about the 3 keys to winning, run the ball and stop the run. I forget the third key. But what's your level of confidence that this Bears linebacker and defensive line crew can withstand the Packers rushing attack?
Well, the main reason they got DeMarcus Walker and Andrew Billings was run defense. They're both very good run defenders. And so, when you look at the group they had last year, and Justin Jones was almost on an island by himself, because the group, across the line just wasn't very good. D-Rob was a rookie and fighting his way through, rookie hardships and trying to figure it all out, because it was only his third year playing on defense. So I think overall it's a lot better group. The depth is a lot better. And then when you throw in TJ and Tremaine, that makes it even stronger. Yeah. So Is Green Bay going to get some good runs? Probably. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And with Love at quarterback, they may rely more on their run, or try to rely more on the running game than they would if Aaron Rodgers was playing quarterback.
Does it surprise you that Quindell Johnson is probably going to suit up and be the backup to Jaquan Brisker, who has not played? Brisker has not played and is not a definite go for Sunday, although it's trending that way. But to have
I think he's a definite go. I think they've been, in all honesty, I think they've been playing games with some of this stuff.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, really, they do all the walkthroughs. They might even do some stuff when the media is not allowed to watch. Media is only allowed to watch the first 5 periods or something like that.
Right.
Yesterday Brisker had a tweet, and I don't know if you saw it, but it was 3 arrows going like this. So, meaning arrow going up. I'm not worried about that. The guys, sometimes you put too much emphasis on what they did in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Forget it. He's not a rookie anymore. Started a lot of games last year, got a lot of play time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's had practice during preseason. He's had practice in OTAs. It's like riding a bike and get back in there and just, could you blow assignment? Yeah, you could, but is it likely? Who the hell knows?
Swifty from the Swift Sports Network, a must follow on social media and YouTube, says that Hicks played free safety and strong safety all throughout camp. So the thought of Quindell Johnson actually getting some snaps at the safety position Sunday are probably only if there's a dire situation with injuries.
It depends on the scheme they're playing with the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
What the DBs and in particular the safeties were being asked to do, the terminology, those types of things where, there's some people that can make that transition. And it's a lot easier to bring in a guy from the outside on defense than it is on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, it depends on the position. And is there anything similar with what the Rams are doing and what the Bears are doing as far as terminology and how they ask their safeties to play? And if there's a big difference, then you're going to see Johnson on special teams and probably not at all, or maybe not at all in, regular down and distance type situations.
All right, let's take a look at the Packers depth chart. The offense, of course, is led by new quarterback Jordan Love, and they've got a rookie as his backup, Sean Clifford. They don't even have a third quarterback listed on their chart here at all. So got to ask you, I know it's a big secret. Nobody knows. I listened to Ryan Wood on one of the Chicago sports radio shows yesterday, Parkins and Spiegel at 670, and Wood covers the Packers every day. And he was asked, is Jordan Love for real? And he said, I don't know. And so even the Packers media and Packers fans don't know what they have in Jordan Love. I know you scouted him. What can you tell us about Jordan Love, and what kind of expectations do you have for his first season?
I mean, that was 4 or 5 years ago that I watched him coming out of college, and I'll be honest, I didn't think he was a first round pick.
Yeah.
But he was. So that, he's going down in history as a first rounder. I don't think he's played enough. I mean, he hasn't played anywhere near as much as Justin has played, even though he's been in the league a year longer. He's got a very inexperienced group of receivers. Christian Watson, the first half of last year, stunk. It was in Aaron Rodgers' outhouse because he couldn't catch a cold winter. But then he came on in the second half of the season. He looked great. He looked like the player they thought he would be. Dubs, I love Dubs coming up. I thought he was a steal getting getting him in. I think they got him in the 5th round. You know, he was at Nevada. This guy made some plays now, and he's a pure X receiver. Jaden Reed, I liked. You know, this past year, he's more of a slot guy for me, and he can return kicks. He's a pretty good return guy. He's a local kid. He's, you know, a Chicago kid, and he can run. You know, so all 3 of those guys can run, and so their speed is pretty close to what the Bears have. You know, speed wise. So in their backup group, I don't know, Heath. I really like Dontavian Wicks. Now, Dontavian Wicks did not run anywhere near as good as I thought he would, but you watch him play, he ran like 4.6 something, but when you watch him play, you'd swear he's a 4.50 guy. Okay, and then the other guy who's backing up Reed, I don't know much about him, but now the guy who's scary is Luke Musgrave. Now, he had some injury situations in college, but this is a very, very athletic tight end. He probably, you know, can't knock a drunk off a bar stool as a blocker. But, you know, I changed my wording on that. But you know, he's a legitimate sub 4.5 guy, and he's going to be a matchup problem for Brisker. It's going to be like covering a wide receiver, a big wide receiver. So, you know, he's going to be a guy they're going to probably try to go to a lot.
Yeah, the youth and the wide receiver and tight end rooms for this team is really quite eyebrow raising because, you know, you got Christian Watson and Doubs, both are in their 2nd year, and then you're really looking at rookies. You're looking at Heath, Wicks, Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Ben Sims, the 3rd or 4th tight end on this team. All of these guys are rookies. They can't. It's impossible for them to come out firing offensively in the pass game like an Aaron Rodgers type team. Please tell me it's impossible.
No, I don't think you're going to see anywhere close to a game plan that you had with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you know, you're dealing with a guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame 5 years after he says I'm done. So they got to develop Love, and we got to, you know, we'll see how that happens. I mean, everybody here is hoping that they can't strike it rich 3 times in a row. If you're a betting man, you'd say there's no possible way that's going to happen, but you know, it's an unknown. We just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What I do, I'd pressure the shit out of myself, but.
Well, but that's the thing is then you're susceptible to that screen pass, which the Packers have normally, you know, spend a lot of time on. They run it to precision, much like the Bears did this preseason. So that's going to be interesting. And we know how the Bears love to try to get a rush out of that 4-man rush. One of the things that I heard that was interesting, Greg, about this Matt LaFleur's offense is that we are finally going to get to see the offense because Aaron Rodgers basically took over the offense. He discarded stuff that LaFleur wanted to run, but that Aaron Rodgers didn't particularly care for. We're going to see much more of a sustained rushing attack, which is something that LaFleur likes to do a lot. So the Bears could be going into this game facing an offense that they're really not familiar with.
Well, exactly how the plays are going to be called, they're not going to be familiar with.
Okay.
They're familiar with the offense because it's their offense.
Okay.
Same terminology, playbook's probably pretty much the same. But it's how you call the plays and what plays you put in. Now, excuse me. You look at preseason, and the Bears very rarely were in their sub package and were playing a lot of base 4-3. Well, come Sunday, if we see that base 4-3, 10 downs, it'll be a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be 4-2-5. And so, you know, everything you saw in preseasons off the table. You're not going to, and offense too. You saw very generic vanilla type things in preseason with both teams, with Green Bay also. And, now you're going to see real football.
Okay, good. Real football is what I want to see.
The one advantage, let me say this, the one advantage that I think probably helps both teams is Getsy knows LaFleur. He worked for LaFleur. He knows what LaFleur likes to do and wants to do and what he couldn't do with Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. So that could be a benefit going into this game for the Bears. At least be prepared for this because, when you have your offensive meetings, you're talking about this and you're going to, they're going to say, I'd really like to do this, but, Aaron doesn't want to do it, so we're not going to do it. So, but Getsy's aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, let's take a look at their defensive depth chart. Kenny Clark, TJ Slatton, Devontae Wyatt, the three. They play a 3-4 defense with Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary on the outside and Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker on the inside. Jaire Alexander, Rasul Douglas, Darnell Savage, and Rudy Ford are their back four. There's a lot of talent on this Packers defense. What I keep hearing is that this talent has never been molded into a unit. They have disappointed tremendously. Your thoughts on this Packer team?
Well, there's truth to that statement. And even last year, the single pieces are pretty damn good. The group as a whole, I think Devontae Wyatt was, as a rookie last year, might have been a little bit of a disappointment, but given the benefit of the doubt, he was a rookie. But as a group, I don't think they played as good as the individual parts, as the individual players. And so they got to come together better. And if they do, it's going to be a formidable group to go against. Look at Rashawn Gary, whatever side he's rushing from, he's going to give either tackle a hard time. And if they put him on the Packers' left side, so he's over our rookie tackle, he's going to have a tough baptism into the National Football League.
Yeah. Lucas Van Ness, backup outside linebacker. You weren't too big of a fan of him coming into the draft, right?
Well, not as a down guy, and not. I thought he might be I was thinking, and I had a conversation with Ryan Poles about this, probably a month before the draft. I said, do you think he could be a 3 technique? And because that's what I was looking at him as, is put some weight on him and be a 3 technique. He's got a great motor. Ryan pointed out something to me that I didn't notice on tape. And then I went back and I looked at a couple of games and I sent him a text. I said, yeah, you're right. He's, you want your linemen when they're in their stance and stuff and coming out of their stance to be a little bit flat-footed, where he's up on his toes. And it's a tiny little thing, but it has a direct correlation to do with balance.
Okay.
Now he's got he never was a real starter at Iowa, and he still had 2 years of eligibility left, and he came out. What he had was a great motor and damn good overall athleticism. Now you're putting him in a position that he's never played until, OTAs. And that's as a stand-up outside linebacker where he's got to drop into coverage at times and rush the passer. I'll be honest, I don't know what to expect from him.
Yeah,
because it's new. It's going to be new, and I don't think I didn't dislike. Let me put it this way: I didn't dislike Van Ness. I didn't think he was as good as the hype. Meaning, there are people talking about him as a top 10, 12, top 12 pick, and I said no. I thought at best he was in the first type guy, and because of excuse me, little things.
Right. Right. Well, another interesting young guy that was drafted and should get a lot of playing time. He's the backup at nose tackle and defensive end. Carl Brooks, a 6th-round draft pick out of Bowling Green. A lot of Packer watchers are saying this guy could be, for them, the steal of the draft. What did you see of Carl Brooks when you were scouting him? And do you think that he could live up to some of this Packer fan hype that we've been seeing on social
No,
media?
I don't think he deserves that. He got drafted in the 6th round for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
That means 31 other teams passed him a number of times.
Right.
Played in the MAC, good player in the MAC. I didn't see special. In other words, what I try to do, I look at players coming from the MAC, and there are some players that come from the MAC that turn out to be great players, Khalil Mack being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But Khalil Mack, if you go back and you look at his very first game in his last year at the University of Buffalo, they played at Ohio State. And he goes against Decker, the big tackle who plays for the Lions, who was a first-round pick. He ate him up in the one-on-one. He had 2.5 sacks in the opening game against Decker. So you saw him do it against big-time competition. You didn't see that for Brooks. He's got a good motor. He played outside, and he's an inside guy. So he is athletic. Is he special? I got to see it first. I didn't see special. I saw a day 3 guy that had some tools to work with and develop. It's how quickly is he going to develop?
Yeah. And we could say that about so many players on this roster for the Green Bay Packers. I just don't see them as a playoff contender. It would be a minor miracle, I think, if they really are in the playoff race in December, but we will see. Let's take a quick look at the special teams for both teams. The Bears depth chart. I think we already looked at that one. Let's look at the Packers. Let's see here. Daniel Whalen is the
new punter.
Yeah, that's right. New punter and a new field goal kicker.
Right.
Again, I don't know anything about these guys.
Neither do I. Has Anders Carlson played in the league? I don't even know who he is.
I don't know. Let's do a quick Google search of Anders Carlson. I bet you somebody in the chat is already on that. Anders Carlson.
I know one thing. The first time you come to Soldier Field and kick, it's a bitch.
Yeah, he's a rookie.
Okay.
He's another rookie on this team.
I wouldn't want to let the game lie on him.
Yeah.
Now, if it was Green Bay, different story. But the way the wind is in Soldier Field, you got to learn how to kick at Soldier Field now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your first time in there. So he could be in for a rude awakening. And I learned that from Robbie. I mean, and Robbie used to go down there, down to Soldier during the week all the time when he was here, because he just wanted to really know exactly how to handle the wind. And he went down there, different types of weather situations.
Right.
So he could know exactly what to do if he had similar conditions in the game. So
unlike Cody Parkey.
Yeah. It's the wind maybe, coming out of the west, but in there it swirls.
Yes. Indeed.
And so what you think is the wind isn't really the wind. And it affects the flight of the ball. And when it's new to you, it can screw you up. I'm trying to be really nice and not swear.
Look at you. Does your wife see the last show or something?
No, she never watches this.
My wife never watches either, which is probably a good thing.
No, she'll come home and she'll go, "Did you wear that?"
Does your wife lay out your clothes for you, Greg?
Are you kidding me? She probably want to, but I wouldn't let her. I mean, that's her work. She's in fashion and design. So
yeah. When I went to your house is incredible. It's beautifully designed and decorated, really sensational. All right, let us talk now about. Let's get a couple of questions in here that I've been sitting on. Let's see. Wieselman, our new fan from Wisconsin, who's a Bears fan, who would you get, the young guys on the team, the meaning of the rivalry? Who you think are the young guys to get the meaning of the rivalry? Bring in some. Do you bring in some retired Bears in for a speech? So, in other words, I think what Viso is trying to get to here, in order to really instill the meaning of this rivalry between the Bears and the Packers, would you bring in a retired Bears guy for a speech? And if so, who would it be? How would you go about it?
Well, it might not be a bad idea, but is that something Flus is going to do in the course of a game week? Like he brings in guys during camp and during OTAs. He's brought in Peanut and some other people who talk to the players. Whether or not he's going to do it this week, that remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. When you look at the roster, there's not a lot of guys on this roster. Jalen Johnson's one, Whitehair's another, but there's not a lot of guys who've been around on the roster that really understand the severity of the rivalry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Moody this is Moody's third year. He should know. Mm-hmm. But it's there'll be people in the building that'll let them know. Trust me.
Oh yeah.
And you got Tony Medlin down in the equipment room and the training staff, and Tony Medlin, he's been here since the beginning of time. Uh-huh. So so it's there's enough people around to convey the importance to the players. Whether it would you want to bring in an Olin or a Tillman or somebody like that? It's a good thought, but does Flus want to change up his game day or game week routine? Yeah, that's the question. And you know what? Well, if he does it, we'll know about it.
Right. It's something that should have been planned well ahead. I would. And
it might have, Aldo. Yeah, it might have. We just don't know.
Right. I would love them to just put together a 5-minute movie on that great rivalry and, get through some of the historical aspects of it, but also incorporate fans, because this rivalry is really a big part of it. Is just the disdain Packer fans have for Chicago, the city of Chicago, the big city of Chicago, and Bears fans have towards the entitled attitude that Packer fans have, the nerve to call themselves Title Town, the nerve that they think they're big shit because it's called the Lombardi Trophy and so forth. There's really a lot of animosity between the two fan groups, and that needs to be. Although as soon as the players walk into the stadium, they hear it from the fans. They hear it. They start to get how this is a little bit different than when we're playing, Cincinnati Bengals. That's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, and you mentioned it earlier. Mm-hmm. I've been up to Green Bay probably, with the Bears 9 times, and I've been outside in the lots for a while before the game. Before I'd go in to watch warm-ups and stuff with my family, would stay out. But their fan base at the games is lovely. Classy people. Mm-hmm. At least anybody I've had a connection with.
Sure.
Or interacted with is probably the better word. Their fan base on X, formerly known as Twitter, flaming assholes. I tweeted out yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. It got a lot of play. By the way, has anything come over? Did they sign Terrell Lewis to the practice squad today? They got an open spot.
Didn't Lewis sign somewhere else?
Nope, not that I know of.
Okay, let me look that up. Terrell Lewis. So we do a little bit of research here during the show.
Okay, here it is. I go, Bears fans. Just ignore the cheesehead trolls who have been attacking so much in recent weeks. After Sunday, give them hell.
I saw that, yes.
And who was it? I think it was Ilwell said, you should see my timeline. And I said, well, that's because you talk too much on there.
He likes to
I don't
spar.
say a word. I don't say
Yeah.
a word, and nothing comes back to me. But I've taken screenshots of some people,
Yeah.
that I'm just waiting.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the end of the show, but Bears are going to win this game.
Yeah. I prefer to do the talking after the game.
That's right.
I do have high expectations for the Bears to win this game, but at the same time, you just don't know because there's no evidence of the group playing together during practice or preseason. And even though it would have been vanilla, I just would have liked to have seen for myself. But hopefully, come Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central, everybody will be locked and loaded.
Well,
to
go
play some
back
good
to
football.
5 years ago. How much practice did Khalil Mack have before that Green Bay game?
About 0.
He had 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days, but it was walking.
And he didn't, and he wasn't in camp with the Raiders. So a veteran player, when they know what they're supposed to do, and they're real good players, they're going to get it done.
Yeah. But you are talking about Khalil Mack, the guy who is somewhat superhuman as opposed to DeMarcus Lawrence. So, all right, let's get another couple of questions out of the way here. Creighton wants to know, why do we only dress 46 on game days and not all 53?
I'm going to give you the obnoxious answer because that's what the fucking rule is.
Yeah.
Except I think you can check this. Last year was 48.
Okay.
And I think it's still 48, but they might have gone back to 46, and 47 would be your third quarterback. Okay. But he can't play unless the other two guys are hurt.
On game day, however, 48 players dress.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It was 48 last year. And so... But it's part of it is because most teams got an injury and they're trying to keep the competitive balance pretty much equal. Personally, I think, hey, you know what? If you got a guy hurt, you got a guy hurt. That's your problem. If you got 53 healthy, dress 53. That's my feeling. That's not the league office feeling.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm not quite sure how the players' union looks at it. They probably would want as many players dressed as possible, right?
It doesn't affect their paycheck.
Okay. Let's see. What else?
In the XFL, it affected the paycheck. If you were active versus inactive. But this is the NFL. And so, you're on the active roster for a game, you're getting paid for that game. And we can, let's repeat this one thing. Don't be shocked if they sign a veteran next week, or a lot of teams sign a veteran next week. Any veteran who's on the roster, meaning a vested veteran, 4 years of service in the league, he's on the roster Sunday. His pay is guaranteed for the rest of the season. And that can have huge, depending on what his pay is, that can have huge salary cap implications. You sign a guy on next Monday, now his pay is week to week like the young guys. He doesn't have that guaranteed. He can have the same amount contractually.
Right.
But if you cut him after 4 weeks, you're not paying him for the whole season.
Interesting. So that's going to be some clever movement there by Ryan Poles to manage this salary cap, and that's a tool that he'll have with him. Jeff wants to know, outside of Justin Fields, who are you, Greg, keeping your eyes most closely on Sunday in regards to their development?
I think the most important guy is Wright, because he's got to start a tackle, and if he does as good as he did in college, we'll be fine. But if he's got to go up against Gary a lot, there's going to be some times when he's going to get beat. And that's just because Gary's pretty damn good.
Yeah, he is. Now, Gary has missed all of the preseason, so we'll see if he's going to be 100% on Sunday. But yes, Gary really started to play like the player they expected when they drafted him so high in 2021, I believe it was. And so
this is his fifth year, I think.
Fifth year, okay. So
yeah, so he is going because he is a free agent after this season.
Gotcha.
Unless they extend him.
That is right. Somebody the Bears might have any interest in? Nah, I doubt it. He's going to ask for the moon in the sky.
We'll bring that up just for a minute because it's an interesting topic. Because every week we see a veteran that's in a contract dispute, and all of a sudden, the Bears should trade for him. The Bears should trade for him.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot see. Ryan Poles has a plan. And if you really study it, it's pretty easy to figure out. He's trying to build key positions through the draft and not have to overspend in free agency. Okay, so now, you got Chris Jones and you got Burns from Carolina that are, pissing and moaning about their contracts. They want more money. So we got to trade for those guys. Well, number one, those teams aren't about to trade those guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're key players on those teams. But number two, let's say they were. What do you got to give up to get them? Okay, that number one you got from Carolina last year, as part of the trade down thing, that would go back to Carolina for Burns. And on top of that, you're going to have to give them about a $25 million contract. Easily, and maybe more. And so when you think about it, and you throw in, there's Jalen Johnson, Chase Claypool, Mooney. These guys all are coming out of contract, and you might want to extend them. And then starting next spring, you can re-up or you can extend Justin Fields. Why are you going to go out and spend $25.5 million on a veteran offensive lineman or defensive lineman when you can draft one? Now, granted, the other guy's going to help you more today than the draft choice is, but from a salary cap management point of view, it's just so much smarter to do that. Draft those key positions, draft and develop. And that's what we've seen from him when you look at the players he's drafted in his first two drafts.
That's a perfect segue to this question from Levante Rogers, who offered it a half hour ago. He says, what are your thoughts on potential Bears 2024 first-round draft picks, defensive end Jared Verse from Florida State University and Latu from UCLA?
Well, Verse is I don't think it's too early to say he's a lock to be the first edge, but he's damn good. Mm-hmm. And even though he didn't have any sacks the other day against LSU, he had what was originally thought to be a strip sack. It ended up being called an incomplete pass. But you could see his explosiveness coming off the edge. He's gotten bigger and stronger than he was a year ago. He played his first couple of years at Albany State in Albany, New York, in an FCS level, and then he transferred over to Florida State for the 22 season. Latu is an interesting thing. Now, he had 3 sacks. They said 9 pressures. There ain't no way in hell he had 9 pressures. I watched that game. Okay, so that's press box pressures. And I think if you can smell the body odor from the quarterback, they probably gave him a pressure in that game. He might have had 4 or 5 pressures, but he didn't have 9. But Latu had a very, very, very serious injury. He started off at the University of Washington. Okay, he spent a couple years there. He had a neck injury, required surgery. The doctors at Washington told him, you can't play football anymore. You're done. So he leaves and he finds a school that's going to pass him. And he's from Southern California, or he might be from Sacramento. which is Central Cal. But the people at UCLA, and UCLA's got good medical staff, there's no question, but they pass him. And he played last year, had 10.5 sacks without any incident. And he played Saturday night against Coastal Carolina without incident. He does wear a special collar.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what the surgery was, I don't know. But regardless, it's going to get down to this. He's going to go to the combine, and the medical staff is going to make a determination. And there's going to be a group of teams that, knowing what the injury was and what the surgery was, they're going to flunk him. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. Is it going to be the Bears? I can't tell you that. But, I don't know that. I know how the Bears operate, and because that was an injury to a specific area, they will have a specialist look at it and give his opinion, maybe even two. And, there'll be MRIs taken. But the important thing, if he gets through this season without incident, without injury to that area, that means he would have played 2 full seasons without any type of recurrence. And so that's a plus, and that is part of the equation. So, but to say that he is going to be a lock top first rounder, I think we're not going to know the answer to that till April or March, because the medical is going to be so important with that guy. No question. Talent, he's a first round talent. He's really good.
That's great information, Greg. Jeff also wanted to get your thoughts on Braylon Trice, the defensive end from Washington.
Love him. I think he's a violent pass rusher. Now, he had a little bit of a quiet game Saturday. I watched all these guys. Mm-hmm. And, you can see what he can do. But now I'm going to say this, because it showed with Letu, with Trice, with Verse, they all got double teamed a lot.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the tape last year, and they all had a lot of success coming off the edge last year, you worry about them. They had to do something to make sure. I think Trice was double just about every pass rush attempt he had, and almost the same with Verse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're not going to be doubles. They will sometimes, but they're and they got to learn how to do it. But he had 2 sacks last year, not this year.
Mm-hmm. He did play a lot in the 2-point stance. He stood up a lot and dropped into coverage on a few plays.
Who's that you're talking about?
Braylon Trice.
Right. Well, he's listed as a linebacker.
Okay.
So, in their base scheme, he's a linebacker, but you get into sub, he's rushing the passer.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always rushing from a 2-point stance. Leitu's always in a 2-point stance. Most of the time, Verse is in a 2-point stance, and so was Anderson last year at Alabama.
Okay. It's good to know, as I'll be watching those defensive ends closely.
And then you got Dallas Turner from Alabama. To me, and Turner is no question he's good. But last year, they had the best pass rusher in college football on the other side. So who was the opponent thinking about stopping? They're not thinking about Turner. They're thinking about stopping Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
And so Turner got a free pass, so to speak, in most of those games. Now, this year, he's got to prove I can do it when they're trying to stop me. And so, to me, there's further evaluation to be done. I like the Ohio State kids, but I'm not as high on them right now as some of the analysts are, because the one kid, and I can't say his name, Tui Peloto or something like that.
Don't ask me to.
He had one big game. He dominated the Penn State game. 2 sacks, an interception, some pressures. He had 1 sack the rest of the year, or 1.5 sacks the rest of the year. So, he's getting all those accolades on one game.
Mm.
He's got to do more than dominate one game to be in that upper echelon for me.
A lot of talk regarding Isaiah Buggs. Nomad wanted to get your take on it. Buggs, for those who don't know, defensive tackle for the Detroit Lions. He apparently took down a lot of his Detroit Lions stuff off of social media. He's going to be a healthy scratch from tomorrow night's game. So there are problems with the relationship between coaching staff and Buggs. Now there's talk that he might be shipped out. Do you think the Bears would have any interest in a 335-pound interior defensive lineman?
No, not a fit. And I don't, I don't know the player that well, but those are the type of guys you don't use in this scheme.
Just because
you want quick, athletic. Look at the two guys they drafted. Okay, and look at the numbers. When you look at Gervon Dexter, and so they were both sub 5 flat, 300-pound guys who were very, very athletic. Okay, the big wide body two-gapper can't play in this scheme. And they can be great players. Yeah, they can be great players in the right scheme. But you got to have you can't put the square peg in the round hole. You got to have guys that can get penetration and disrupt from the interior defensive line.
All right. Again, this is Packer Week, the Bears-Packer rivalry. One of the stories that's been passed along from year to year, decade to decade, is that George Halas actually bailed out the Green Bay Packers organization when they were facing some financial difficulties. Mr. Halas said, we need the Packers in the NFL. And so he dug into his pockets and provided some money so that they could continue to stay in the league. That isn't myth, Greg. What have you heard about that story over your time, your years at Halas? Have you heard anything at all about it?
Nothing at all.
Is this the first time you're hearing about it?
Yes, sir.
Look at that. Look at that. I will dig out some more information.
Like George Washington, I cannot tell a lie.
Well, that's one thing we can always count on you to be totally honest when you're up here. And you will tell us when you don't know something, you tell us. And I really appreciate that. But yes, George Halas apparently said, because the Packers were guilty of default, not paying salaries and so forth. And so Halas made arrangements to provide some money so that they could stay in the National Football League. And
that kind of like the Naval Academy bailing out Notre Dame during World War II.
That's right.
Seriously, they did.
Oh, I didn't know. I did hear that.
That is why Notre Dame still plays Navy every year.
That's right.
Navy sent a lot of midshipmen or whatever to Notre Dame for school. Basically bailed out the school. The school was really in financial need at that time and could have closed the doors. And if it wasn't for the help of the Naval Academy, Notre Dame wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. One other thing that I wanted to mention that just escaped my mind regarding Bears-Packers rivalry week. Do you have were there any talk when you were at Halas during Bear-Packer week about playing dirty? And the reason I'm asking this question is this way. I do believe that it would be advantageous for the Chicago Bears to send a message to Jordan Love saying, welcome to the rivalry. And then, a subtle, inconspicuous karate chop to the nuts or something like that early on to just send the message, this is going to be different than anything you've ever faced. That kind of intimidation tactic was something that man back there, Dick Butkus, brought to the Chicago Bears and has been ingrained in me since I watched him play as a kid. What do you think about that kind of tactic to get into a young guy's head?
In all honesty, I don't agree with it. I agree with good, clean football.
Okay.
And, so if you got an opportunity to give the guy a cheap shot at the bottom of the pile. No, I'm not. That's how he's making his living. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Sure.
And I don't want to get hurt. And I was fortunate enough to play a long time in the game and not have any serious in-season injuries. Of course, I'm paying for it now, but with all the surgeries I've had later in life, but it's just you can intimidate them just with physical play,
right,
within the rules.
Right.
You want the game more, hit them harder. It's real simple.
Jaquan Brisker is very good at that. Yeah, I mean he packs a lot.
I was brought up that our coaches and really more than one team I played on, they told the offensive and defensive linemen, look, if you blow your assignment on the first play, I don't give a shit. Just make sure you beat the shit out of the guy across from you so he knows what he's in for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. All right. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction or anything like that. That's
I already said the Bears are going to win. I'm going to say 24-17.
24-17. Okay, so here's something that, again, I heard on talk radio. Dave Wanstead said, at a certain point in this game, you need to throw away whatever you're working on in terms of the passing game. If it's necessary for Justin Fields to tuck the ball and run with the effing ball and score to win, do whatever it takes to win the game. Don't worry about, if Fields throws for only 150 yards and Love throws for 300 yards. Don't worry about that. The final score is the big thing. You agree with that approach?
Yeah, and I heard that interview yesterday morning. Yeah, and I do agree with it. But Justin knows that. If he sees a lane, he's going to go. And that's actually, when you think about it, the Bears' biggest weapon, because the defense has to be so cautious to contain him. And because they are so cautious to contain him, hopefully it opens up other things so that he doesn't have to do it.
Yeah. Expectations for Justin Fields in 2023. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer. Do you think Fields will finally get there and beat Eric Kramer's team record of, I think it's 3,800 yards passing?
He might break the 38. I don't think he'll hit 4. And not because he's not capable of doing it. It's the weather always screws you up. When you get into from the middle of November to the end of the season, you don't know what the hell you're going to be playing in. If this is 8 years from now and we're playing down the street from your house in a dome in Arlington Heights, different story.
Absolutely. By the way, I love this prediction by J2K. Bears 77, Green Bay 2. I actually saw.
Well, that means he's got Green Bay -2. How does Green Bay get -2?
He's a Bears fan. Another expectation, Chase Claypool. What are realistic expectations for Chase? This is one of the more interesting players this season because there was the high investment in him in terms of the second-round pick, which was the 32nd pick overall in the draft. That's usually a first-round pick. What are your expectations for Chase Claypool?
I'm assuming, and I feel that he's going to have a real good year. Is he going to lead the team in pass receptions? I doubt it. I think DJ does.
Absolutely.
If he has 60, 65 receptions, he's had a hell of a year and helped the team. But, there's going to be games. Put it this way. He has a better shot of having a big game this week than he would other weeks, only because, number one, he's an unknown commodity to Green Bay. Number two, they're going to be trying to stop Moore. So, so that could free up Mooney and Chase Claypool. Now, what I think the Bears will do to counteract that some is, in some situations, Mooney will be the Z receiver and Moore will be the slot and vice versa. So it's not locked that each one's going to be lining up in the same position all the time.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting. Robert Tanyon, do you think he gets a revenge touchdown on his old team week one? I'm fascinated by him just because he had such a quiet preseason, and he had that one drop. I would not at all be surprised if he has a touchdown catch on Sunday.
Well, I think he's going to be an important part of the passing game because he gives them something they really haven't had in a while. Mm-hmm. That real athletic move guy, and he runs pretty good.
Right.
I mean, he's a guy, I think the last 2 years he's had over 50 receptions playing in Green Bay.
Yeah. I think Cole had 60 catches or so last season. Do you think Tanyon's presence is going to eat into that reception total?
It might, but I think, I think they're trying to make Kmet a big part of this game. Put it this way, they got some weapons now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, okay, take away DJ. Well, you got Kmet, Tanyon,
mm-hmm.
Mooney, Claypool. They got a good group.
Do you foresee Jaire Alexander shadow DJ Moore?
Alexander, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. They want to shut him down. That's the best way to do it. Alexander is one of the best.
I've been seeing a bunch of clips on X this week where, Moore's been in a Carolina uniform beating him.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Berlissimo says, I'm interested to see when Getsy starts using balanced motion to unbalanced and motions to stack receivers. It's an easy way to find mismatches and get quick releases for his smaller receivers. You think Luke Getsy's a good offensive coordinator?
It's a good question because I think his hands were tied a little bit last year because he didn't have the skill people that he'd like to have, and now he does.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see him. They didn't show much in preseason, but they specifically showed, and I think they did it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
The screen game is a weapon. You better be ready for it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a screen to a back in your conventional screen or a bubble screen to a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. You are so right about that. What's interesting is one of the things that Luke has said a couple of times in press conferences during the preseason is that the relationship between him and quarterback Justin Fields has grown so much that they are now talking about the concepts of the play in such a fluent way. And I think that's almost like a dog whistle saying he really didn't understand the playbook that well last year. Now he's got a much better grasp of it. He knows what we're trying to do, and so that's going to open up more things that can happen in the play calling. And as you said, the weapons are there. This could be a very explosive Bears offense.
What you're really saying is he understands the philosophy of the play. Like last year, he knew the plays. X does this, Z does this, Y does this.
Right.
But could he dissect each play?
Right.
And say why X is doing this, Y is doing this, and Z is doing this, and get into the fundamentals of the play and the philosophy of the play of what you're trying to do. And sometimes, when you call, most teams script their first 15 plays. And I don't know if they stick. I don't think they stick to a strict script.
Yeah.
Because of down and distance, you've got really probably 25 plays for 15 plays, depending on down and distance situations. But sometimes you're calling some plays in that early part of the game to find out exactly how the other team's going to react to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that gives you an answer for later in the game.
Setting them up. Indeed.
Yes.
Pre-snap, post-snap, I've been hearing a lot about that, and I think that's one of the things that Justin is learning a lot more about, because a lot of times you're reading the coverage as you're getting up to the line of scrimmage, and as soon as the ball is snapped, you're seeing the defensive backfield running this way, running that way, running back, running forward, linebacker shifting, and so forth. That's a big part of the learning curve, and that's one thing that I hope that Justin is going to master this season.
And that should not have anything to do with this being his second year in this system. It's his third year in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So it's people are always throwing different things at you and adjusting their defense and giving you false looks, and you learn from it by experience. And then pretty soon you get like, much as I dislike Aaron Rodgers as a person, there's probably nobody better than coming up to the line of scrimmage and knowing exactly what you're going to do because he's seen everything.
Yep, indeed. Greg, I think we've covered it all. You and I are planning on being back here next Monday at around 11 o'clock or so to talk about the Bears win over the Green Bay Packers. If the Bears lose, we'll be here too, but I don't expect that. And any final words for your followers and fans?
No, I think if we're lucky, we'll be having 2 shows pretty soon, but we're working on it.
Yeah. It always helps if the Bears get off to a quick start. Then all of a sudden, sponsors are much more eager to invest money. So for Greg Gabriel, I'm Aldo Gandia. Make sure you check out Mac and Reed at 6 p.m. Central, and then Buffon 55 at 7:30 p.m. We got some surprises for you on that show. And then if you are into hockey, Bar Down Hockey Talk at 2 p.m. Central. That's our lineup for today. I'm Aldo Gandia, and that's Greg Gabriel. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thank you.